Excel dot plots, dumbbells and lollipop charts are good for comparing 1, 2 or 3 points of data, for example year on year, before, after or A versus B, and they make a nice change from column or bar charts and they're less cluttered. Also, because the dots aren't anchored to the axis baseline, we're not required to start the axis at 0 like we do with the column or bar chart. Now, unfortunately, dot plot, dumbbell and lollipop charts aren't available from the Insert Chart menu, so in this video I'll show you how to build them. We'll take a look at dot plots first. Here I've got my data, and the spacing simply assigns each department to a row in your chart so they're nicely vertically distributed. You can change the spacing to suit your needs. So I'm going to select the data in columns B and C, and then we'll insert a scatter plot. I'll just bring it up into view. The first thing I want to do is rename this series, so I'm going to right click, select data, we'll edit the spacing. So instead of it referencing the spacing cell, it's going to reference the year label. I'll click OK and OK. Now I want to edit the vertical axis so that the maximum is 2.5, so I'm just, with it selected, Control 1 to open the formatting. So in here I want 2.5. and that just aligns my last dot with the very top of the chart. Now I want to hide the vertical axis, so we'll just go in here and deselect primary vertical. Now if you want to emphasize the difference between the dots, we can adjust the starting point for the horizontal axis. Let me close that, we'll go into the axis options, and in here we'll set the minimum as 600. We get a better feel for the difference from one dot to the next. Now I'm going to remove all of the grid lines, and then we'll format the dots. So with the dots selected, I'm going to format the data series, so I want to alter the fill in line. So we'll go into the paint bucket, and then on the marker in options, I'm going to use the built-in marker, but I'm going to make it much bigger. We'll make it size 13. We'll give it a solid fill. It's automatically selected white, and that's the color I want. The outline or the border, we'll make it solid. Let's change the color to this bluey green color, and we'll make the width of the line thicker. Now all I need to do is add some labels. So go in here, add labels. I want to go into more options, and in here I don't want the Y value, I want the X value. We don't need leader lines, but I'd also like to have the department names. So I'm going to use value from cells. This is new in Excel 2013, so if you've got 2013 or later, you'll have this option. So I'm just selecting the department names. We'll click OK. We just need to give our chart a little bit more room for those labels. And there we have our dot plot chart. Now lollipop charts get their name from the leader line that draws your eye to the dot. And because of this, I think you should start your axis at 0 for the same reasons we do with bar and column charts, and I'll talk more about these reasons at the end. They require the same steps as the dot plot, but instead of using horizontal grid lines, we use error bars. Now to save time, I'll modify this dot plot chart that I've got here, and I'll just bring it over the top of the lollipop. So first of all, I don't need the horizontal grid lines, so let's remove those. And then I'm going to add the error bars. I'm going to go error bars and then more options. Now by default it's going to put in a vertical error bar. I want to change the horizontal error bar, so I want this one with the X. And now I have the horizontal error bar for settings. I can choose minus, no cap, and down here for percentage I want that to be 100. And now you can see the lollipop stalk. I can select these vertical error bars and press the delete key because we don't need those anymore. Another thing I might do is move these labels and put them to the right of the dots. And now we have our lollipop chart, so I can change the name up here. Remember to make sure that your lollipop chart axis starts at 0. Now dumbbell charts, which are sometimes called DNA charts, require the same steps as the dot plot, except they have a second series for the other year. We also need to calculate the difference between the years and place those values in their respective columns, and these become the positive error values and the negative error values. You can see the formula in the formula bar. You can download the file to get a closer look. I'm not going to go into detail on that formula here. So let's go about creating our charts. Like I said, they're the same as the dot plot. So we'll start off by inserting a scatter chart. And I'll just move it down here so we can see our data behind. Now I need to add a series for 2016. So right click, select data, add. The series name will be 2016. The values are the values for 2016. And the Y series values are our spacing values. So I'll click OK. Now while I'm in here, I'm just going to edit the name in here. So instead of referencing this cell, we'll select the label for the X values. So I'll click OK and OK again. And now you can see we've got our two series in the chart. Let's continue to tidy it up a little. Get rid of the grid lines. We're going to use error bars. Let's set this vertical axis, Control 1 to open the axis options. We want to make the maximum 2.5. And now we can hide that. So let's go in here and we'll turn off the primary vertical axis. Now I just need to format the dots like I did before. So we'll go into the paint bucket, marker options, built-in, size 13. Obviously you can change the size to something else if it suits you better. I want solid fill in white and I'll have a solid border and let's make it thicker. And then I just need to rinse and repeat for the next marker. So again, built-in, 13, solid fill in white, and then solid line. This one I'll change it to green so that it's different, and let's make it thicker. So there's our dots. Now, unlike the column and bar charts and the lollipop charts, I don't need to start my horizontal axis at 0. So let's change the minimum to 600. That just gives a bit more space between our dots. I'm also going to bring this chart area down here a little so there's a bit more room for the dots. So I'm ready to add my error bars. And remember, I'm going to be referencing these helper columns here. So I'm going to select the 2016 series and then we'll add error bars, but we'll go into more options. It defaults to the vertical error bar, so let me choose the X error bar. And in here, I can change the settings. So I want both. Again, I want no cap. This time, I'm going to have a custom value. So I'm going to click on specify value. And this is where I select my positive error and my negative errors. And click OK. Now we've got the horizontal error bars. Let me select the vertical ones or press delete to get rid of them. And that gives us the dumbbell appearance. Let's add some labels. So we'll go in, add data labels. We need to obviously go into more options so we can modify them a bit. Here I want the X value, not the Y values. And I don't need leader lines. Let's put these ones to the right. And let's also add a value from the cells so that we can have the department names included. Now we just need to give it a bit more space. Now I just need to modify these labels for the 2016 series. So again, we want the X value, not the Y value. We don't need leader lines. And these ones I'll align left. Now all looks great except for department D, where the 2016 value is greater than the 2017 value. So we're going to need to manually modify just these labels. So I'm going to click on them once and then click on it again to select just department D's. This one I'll set to the right and this one I'm going to set to the left. And then you have the dumbbell chart. Now with all of these cool charts, you might be wondering which one to use. And your choice will depend on the point that you want to emphasize. Keep in mind that dot plots, lollipops and dumbbell charts are an alternative to bar and column charts, which enable you to quickly compare the size of one department to the next and compare one period to the next for each department. But you must always start a bar or column chart axis at 0, otherwise you can mislead the difference from one bar to the next. For example, if we look at these two bar charts, they plot exactly the same data, but the second chart's axis starts at 600 million. And looking at Department A, it appears that their sales in 2017 are double that of 2016. And it's because we subconsciously compare the lengths of the bars. Dot plots, on the other hand, allow comparisons between departments with more emphasis on the difference, because we don't have to start the axis at 0. And because they're not anchored to the axis, we rely on the labels and their position on the axis to make comparisons, so there's less chance of misleading the reader. Now, lollipops are a slightly less cluttered take on a bar chart, but because they're anchored to the axis, you should ensure it starts at 0. And lastly, dumbbell charts emphasize the change from one point to the next, with some comparison between departments. And the axis here can also start above 0 because they aren't anchored. You can download the Excel file for this lesson from the link here. I hope you can make use of these charts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more. And don't forget to share it with your friends who might also find it useful. Thanks for watching.